Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. We've been looking at these issues of diseases of the heart, and we call them by various names: human weaknesses, character weaknesses, those things that become impediments to our growth as human beings, as Muslims, as husbands, as wives, as parents, as children, as neighbors, as professionals, in every capacity. If you have a board of directors where showcasing brilliance is an important trait of somebody, it'll undermine the quality of conversations, of creativity, of ideas. If you have a family where one person, whether the father, whether the mother, is always defensive, doesn't accept corrections, it has ripple effects on other members of the family. It is a climate changer. You change the kind of climate, the atmosphere in which children grow. You change the kind of climate in which people work just because you want to showcase brilliance. You want to be the one who has the spotlight on you. You're the one who wants to be seen, recognized. You're not wanting to share credit. You want to be like the mountain. High up, everybody sees you. But please remember, just like with mountains, even stones don't like to stay on the mountains. Even stones try to roll away from the top of the mountain. So it's really important that as we deal with each other, let us be cognizant of those weaknesses in ourselves that provoke further weaknesses in others. That sometimes the thing you complain about your wife, the thing you complain about when it comes to your wife, is actually a byproduct of what you are like to her, or what you are like to your children, and how your children relate to you, of what you are like to your driver, your house help, your colleague at work, your subordinate, but also how you react to your seniors. If you're the kind of person who is just seeking acceptance, you wait to hear anything they have to say, and you want to agree. You have nothing new to say. The moment you sense they are saying something in this direction, you are fully on board with them. You're not critical. Don't look at your loyalty as something that will be rewarded always. When they want independent-minded people, they will not take you. So when it comes to ourselves, let's ask ourselves and take responsibility regarding who provokes what in us, and our allowing others to provoke arrogance, to provoke defensiveness, to provoke being comparative, that somebody will come dressed in a particular way, speaks in a particular way just to make you feel down. And because you are ready to be like the dog and the bone, be comparative. If you recall the story of the dog that was given the bone and it went to eat its bone and really enjoy itself, as it was crossing a stream, it saw in the water another dog with a bone that looked bigger, and it jumped in to get that bone, but it lost its own. And sometimes, by just getting so carried away with what others have, you lose yourself. It is important that you ask yourself, how can you resist? So one thing, have time to think about your weaknesses. What are your weaknesses? Look at them one by one. Now I'd ask myself, do I have a problem of thinking I'm right when I could be wrong? Maybe. Let's start with the assumption that maybe that's my big problem. How would I know if it's my problem? Maybe consult with others. What do they think? Actually, if you ask others, what do you think is my biggest weaknesses? Or what are my biggest weaknesses? People start getting a bit diplomatic around you. But it's a bit easier when you ask, what one area do you think I could improve on? Then they feel they are contributing to something good. Then they will give you the same weakness, but in a more positive area for growth, area of improvement. But you need the shock absorbers for whatever you're going to hear and not get defensive again, especially if defensiveness is one of the problems you suspect you may have. Or showcasing brilliance, the problem of the eagle, where you cut other people's sentences. You really hardly ever acknowledge others may be right, you may be wrong. You don't accept that you are wrong enough to apologize. So, as we prepare for our next encounters with people, let us really be critical. Is it possible that I am seeking acceptance from anyone? Is there anybody I look up to, somebody I maybe regard as a mentor, somebody who I consider as, wow, you know, if this person could just even give me some attention, I'll feel on top of the world? Are you really like a chameleon? Is this a form of shirk, where if this person likes something or dislikes something, why do you wear that type of dress? You'll start changing your dress. Why don't you do this? You'll start doing that. We have people who, the moment they change their hairstyles, we find our children and some of our colleagues beginning to change their hairstyles. They change fashion. They never, you don't even know these people, but they have so much influence on us. Are we influenced by infomercials disproportionately to an extent where we have such an inferiority complex when we hear everybody is buying this, limited copies left, limited units left, or if everybody is doing it, I don't want to feel left behind, let me do. Do you really need it before you buy it? Oh, people have stopped buying this kind of cloth. It's this kind of cloth that is on fashion. Is that really what's more comfortable? Is it in line with taqwa and God consciousness? Is it in line with what your conscience is comfortable with? So let's really think carefully about the various things that influence us negatively, but let's also think of how we influence others negatively. When you see misbehavior around you, remember the mirror and the window. That everybody moves around with an imaginary window and an imaginary mirror. What bad leaders do is when they see something wrong, they look out of the window to apportion blame, to look for whose fault it is. When things go right, they look into the mirror and they see themselves and they take credit. How many times do we take credit for good we see in our children? And when you see the child misbehaving, it must be his mother. It must be this. It's always somebody else that's a negative influence. That would be the mosquito in us, the cool fool, the one who doesn't see how you don't know you are actually being a negative influence. Or it may be the expression of the eagle in you, always feeling you are better, and if there's any bad result, it's nothing to do with you. Or it's the crocodile in you, always being defensive, never accepting maybe you have some areas of improvement in your relationship with your children that you should consider. When we look at our relationships, as we said, a bad leader would look out of the window when things go wrong, look into the mirror when things go right. A good leader would look into the mirror when things go wrong and ask themselves, how am I responsible? How do I have the greater responsibility? What did I do wrong? What did I not do better? What did I not do at all? So as much as we want to change the world around us, let us appreciate how our character influences people around. And these diseases of the heart, of the cool fool, the mosquito, of being oblivious, heedless to areas of improvement, to feedback, of being like the eagle of I am better than others, being like the dog, always being comparative. What do others have? What do others think? Or being like the crocodile, I'm not wrong, I've got nothing to apologize for, and always coming up with excuses for you to just stay the way you are. or being like the chameleon, saying yes to everything and requiring everybody else to just, basically ask you how high to jump, and you'll just ask, where, what height. You just, want to blend in. You cherish your friends so much that you lose ethics and you lose your own individuality and the value you could bring to that group. In conclusion, we've tried to focus in this episode on your role in reflecting on how your weaknesses are contagious and how they are influencing others, and how your arrogance sometimes creates a chameleon in others, seeking acceptance. Sometimes your defensiveness provokes another defensiveness. Sometimes your seeking acceptance is a byproduct of somebody around you. Think carefully at your closest, most relevant relationships. Who influences you the most, and who are you the greatest influencer of? And how could you improve relationships by thinking carefully and realizing what's going on wrong? What's going wrong? Because sometimes just recognizing what is wrong is an important solution. Just recognizing what the problem is half of the solution. Not knowing what the problem is, you become like the mosquito. You have a problem and you don't know you have a problem. And when people are trying to kill you, you think they're trying to clap for you. And your head is even moving around, swelling as if, you've achieved something. Inshallah, in the next episode, we will look at some of these strengths, how we can manage the diseases with strengths like humility, curiosity, sincerity, commitment, but also compassion. How we can tackle these impediments to our growth, these potential gateways to greater wisdom, greater knowledge. These are the foundations of growth, to recognize your weaknesses and have a lifetime commitment in dealing with them, improving upon them step by step. Until next time, may Allah continue to help us grow in whatever pleases Him most. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.